Joining us for this installment of Parish and Community. We frequently do interviews with members of our parish and our community. Our guest today is Madeline Powers, uh, with the Regional Access Coordinator in St. Francis Xavier's Outreach Program. Madeline, could you start just by telling us a little bit about how you became involved in College Church and the Outreach Program?
Sure. Well, I guess there's like a twofold answer. One being that we have been I and my family have been parishioners since we moved to St. Louis almost 7 years ago now. So I've been familiar with the outreach program a little bit just by way of being a parishioner, but I haven't had full uh, connection to the program until I guess it was January 2022. So I am a student, a social work student currently, and I just by happened to see that there was a opportunity to be a practicum student here at the program, which felt really cool and because it was a familiar community and interesting work, and that is sort of what has led me to become to this new role of regional access coordinator.
And then could you just elaborate a little bit about what your responsibilities are as Regional Access Coordinator?
Sure. So last year there was a position that was starting to bring the service we provide on Tuesdays here at the parish out into locations around St. Louis. So it looked like pop-up events, and it also looked like going to specific agencies and offering this service at different social service agencies. That was sort of the beginning of bringing the program out of our space, and hopefully ultimately what we will be working towards is having those agencies and events being self-run by those agencies. So we won't have the same ownership of them. We are now working to train people to start offering this service on their own and fund it on their own as well.
So what exactly is House Bill 1878 and how will it change voter registration?
What a great question. It's a very complicated
In a nutshell, I know there's a
yeah.
lot to it.
No, I know. And I think that the most critical part is that House Bill 1878 now makes photo ID a requirement. And actually, I should say it limits the photo IDs that are available, because there already was a law in place that required photo ID or identification for voting. That had been in place for some time. Now it's specifically only state IDs, I think passports and government issued IDs, like maybe through the military. So it's restrictive in that regard. People need to have this ID in order to vote. They are allowed to cast a provisional ballot. If they don't have it, it's up for debate whether or not those end up counting. So it might be a little misleading if people go in believing that their ballot will count. There is also a plus that I think people should definitely know of and take advantage of, is that along with some of the more restrictive parts of the bill, there's also some expansion as well, which is there's a 2-week period now prior to election day where anyone can go vote in person early. So that's really cool too.
And then what specific efforts has the College Church made to help people that face these barriers to vote? And how have they helped spread awareness about the updated voter ID law?
Yeah. Well, one really awesome thing is there's this advocacy committee that's been working for the past few months now and has chosen to specifically focus on voting. So that committee, in collaboration with the Tuesday program, the outreach program, has kind of tried to figure out who needs to know more information. How are we going to get that information to people? So the committee decided to sort of focus on making sure participants on Tuesday are aware of registration deadline, the new requirements, and have sort of all of the ways in order to find their polling location and things of that nature. We also today had a parishioner who was there helping us register voters. So that was, I mean, this is really cool. And we've also had some education focused on the parish itself. So flyers have been available after Mass to make sure everyone's aware of, okay, tomorrow, October 12th is the deadline for registering. Make sure your registration is up to, or that you are registered by tomorrow in order to vote in the November election. Yeah, what are the changes that might affect you? You know, now you can vote early. Let's make sure people know that so they can take advantage of it. Make sure people have their IDs. They have to be valid. They cannot be expired. So that can pose a big problem for the senior population in particular, who maybe are not driving anymore, so have no need to get a up-to-date license and have been able to use their expired ID in the past. So I'm a little worried about how many people are going to show up to vote and be told for the first time they can't.
Right. And then what's been the sort of the most impactful few moments of your involvement in the outreach program and helping with the state ID and birth certificate program here?
Oh, good question. Well, one of my earliest impactful memories that we had a guest come in who was really having this runaround experience because he didn't know which name was listed on his birth certificate. What he had been called this one name his whole life. He also had this other name that was from his baptism, but he wasn't certain which one was on his birth certificate, and he just could not get a copy of his birth certificate. And it was out of state, it was Illinois, so it's not like we could go down to the office and, you know, kind of help speed the process along at all.
Right.
And he just made this comment one day that he didn't feel like a person because no one could help him get his documentation. No one like trusted him in a way that he was who he said he was. So it just, I think that sparked this thought in my head. Like, I know there is good reason to have these documents that help us say who we are. And also, like, isn't he who he is? I don't know. It's just, it's such a simple thing in some ways. And I don't know. It just sparked a bigger question in my head that
it definitely underscores the need for this program for helping people.
Yeah, he definitely, it was good that we were able to walk through him with a pretty tricky process. So yeah, I think it's a pretty invaluable program ultimately.
And then this is somewhat more of a broader general question. We typically end our interviews with a question along these lines. Is there a particular holy man or woman in your life that's inspired you?
Sure. I think so many. It's really nice to work here with colleagues who do that for me most days. And I think as you asked that question, I'm thinking of a particular person in my family's life who sort of has just really lived out Catholic social teaching in a way that has been so inspiring to me. I guess the name of the person doesn't matter so much, but the people who do this for me are people who really live into Catholic social teaching.
Yeah, it's a great answer. Thank you so much for your time today, Madeline. That's about all the questions I have today. And I'll be sure to add a link if there's a link that you'd want attached to the outreach programs page for viewers. If they're interested, I can add that to the video. So
great.
It was great to talk to you and learn more about the voter ID law. So
yeah, I know. I guess you won't. Will you vote here in Missouri, or are you?
No, I'm Illinois resident myself. So
good. I know, because students are kind of an impacted group that used to be able to vote in Missouri, and now you can't be unless you switch your residency.
Right.
Right. So anyway.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks.